The gaming industry wants to fail. I think a bit of a aggressive statement, but that is what the Legendary Drops is saying. And I'm assuming that this is about the $80 games increase from Nintendo and Xbox. And I have an interesting take on this as we go. And it might not be a popular take, but it's an interesting one. And I'm assuming he might have the same one, but I'm not 100% sure. So let's see what he's going to say.
I'm going to try to keep it together here. Just last year, Phil Spencer, the CEO of Xbox, stepped forward to say that increasing prices over $70 would be manipulative.
That's not what he said at all. He said jacking up prices of games can be manipulative, and his actual quote about that was in regards to launching games with pre-planned DLC that should be in the game at launch. That's what he actually said about that. Unless I have seen the wrong thing, that is what he was saying. But I don't understand how increasing a price can just in and of itself be manipulative. It's just shitty. That's all it is. But I don't believe that that's what his actual quote was about.
Do I need to say anything more?
I mean, you can
Do not
probably
trust
show
these
the quote.
people. And please stop defending them. Xbox was the last company that I would have expected to join the price hike club.
Because I think they're the company that actually makes the most sense to join the price hike club, because they don't want to sell their games. They want to sell Game Pass.
I will largely applaud them for getting rid of console exclusivity. I think that that's generally a good thing. And I know that there is a broader strategy to these price increases. It still doesn't make sense. Not from a player's perspective, and definitely not even from a business perspective.
It does from a
outside
business
of a couple of decent games, Xbox first-party titles just aren't good. People are not going to be lining up to spend $80 on an Xbox game right now.
And they don't want them to. Like, this is the part that we're missing. I get the narrative that he's trying to push across, and I'm assuming that this will continue throughout the entire video. It is a long one, so grab a drink or whatever. Yeah, I don't see... I see what they're trying to do. They're trying to sell Game Pass. They're trying to be like, $20 a month. Basically, you get a new game every month, plus our back catalog. That's what they're trying to do.
You might get a handful, but not nearly as many as you're going to need. And it feels like every single time they go to pick up a publisher or a studio, they find a way to ruin it in one way, shape, or form, except for Activision Blizzard King. And, well, you can't necessarily ruin what is already effectively video game Satan, so there you go. You don't have the faith of the vast majority of players that play video games today. You are the weakest of the three platform holders. You are
that's not true. They've actually just came out and said that they're actually might be the strongest, but the weakest in hardware. Like, nobody is buying an Xbox, but if you look at all of the top games on PlayStation and all of the top games selling right now, they are all Xbox games, even though they are day one on Game Pass, which is wild. So right now, just alone, you have Doom, which is coming out this week. Then you have Expedition 33. You have Elder Scrolls Oblivion Remaster. And then in August, we're going to have the Gears of War Remaster, which I'm assuming is
behind in console sales. And you're increasing prices across the board. What are you doing?
They don't want to sell consoles.
I know what you're doing. You're terrified. Because Xbox, like all of these other companies, have built their castles on sand. And because of rising development costs, because you guys consolidated your industries overseas and now are threatened by tariffs, because piracy is on the rise, because indie development...
This is the one thing that is 100% true, is that $80 games are going to make piracy go up of those games. 100%. Also, weird thing, right now it seems as though all the games that are selling the best and doing the best are $50 games. So
putting out breakout hits. Because the EU Commission is now targeting microtransactions. The tide is coming in, and you're all about to be washed out. Initially through GameStop, Xbox announced price hikes across the board, increasing the price of digital games up to $80 starting next year, and increasing the price of their hardware and accessories anywhere from $20 to $30 to even charging $729 for the Xbox Series X 2TB console, more expensive than the PlayStation 5 Pro. Pricing yourself higher than your competition who's outselling you 3-to-1 is a bold strategy and not one that I was expecting. At the end of my Oblivion video, I had said I don't trust these companies to make smart choices, and I hate being right. At first, I thought Xbox was pricing the Oblivion remaster at $50 as a direct response to Nintendo increasing their prices and dropping their Zelda remaster.
What it actually seems as though is that they are trying to do actually what Nintendo is saying, where they're basing their game prices off of what is there to offer. Now, that is speaking pretty soon. I am very curious what games they end up pricing out at $80. If they do this next Call of Duty at $80, it's some of the dumbest crap I've seen.
Remaster at $90. And honestly, I still think it was. Asmongold nailed it on Twitter. He said that 2025 and 2026 will be the years of remasters and remakes.
Yeah.
Cheap to create compared to a new game, quantifiable existing audience, boost visibility for upcoming titles, Gears of War E-Day, little to no risk.
Great point on this one. So this is what they're doing with Gears of War Reloaded. It's Gears of War E-Day, I believe, is supposed to take place before that one. Someone in my comments said something opposite, but from what I can see, that's what it's supposed to be. So then you release the Reloaded for a cheap price, and then Gears of War E-Day at $80. Okay, maybe you want to buy it then.
Risk of controversy or boycott, literally the easiest W in the industry right now. Honestly, I cannot believe that this guy can find time to post industry insights while also doing home improvement. But
Love the reference. Hilarious.
honestly, he's not wrong, especially when that remaster is as transformative as Oblivion's, and especially if it's priced fairly. New releases are a minefield right now, plagued by creative missteps, content that nobody asked for, and player backlash. So returning to the past makes sense. Players want something familiar, something proven. Reviving these beloved games with modern upgrades is a great way to answer that call while avoiding any backlash that's been plaguing a lot of these new IPs and modern releases. Though Oblivion censorship has raised some eyebrows. But the part that Asmon glossed over, the part that deserves a little bit more attention here, is that this isn't just a visibility boost. It's Xbox clawing back into relevance. These aren't just nostalgic remasters. These are cultural recall grenades. And with the $40 Gears of War remaster seemingly aiming at the exact same level of quality as the Oblivion one, Xbox has found a strategy.
See, I think the biggest thing with that one is actually the crossplay, right? That's a game that a lot of people really enjoyed the multiplayer side of things, and you can't really play it right now. There's just not enough people playing it. And adding in crossplay, even if it doesn't go gangbusters, there's going to be enough people on crossplay where you can actually play in games. And so yeah, having a hardware, and not hardware per se, but software upgrades like that didn't exist back then is absolutely huge.
That actually makes sense. Cost-effective, high-quality reminders of what the brand used to be and used to stand for. These games aren't locked behind exclusivity either. They're multi-platform, meaning that Xbox gets to reintroduce itself to players they've either lost or never had. And I'll be honest, I think this is smart. But here's the problem. It completely undercuts their justification for the price hikes everywhere else. Let's be real. Xbox is the last company that should be selling $80 games. Their recent titles have not earned it. When I think of an $80 game, I could maybe spend that on Elden Ring,
I'd spend it on Expedition 33, I'm going to be honest.
Baldur's Gate 3, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, Armored Core 6, games that gave me something complete, something real. I'm not thinking Halo Infinite, Avowed, or Starfield, and sure, that's subjective, but it's also about standards. Larian, Warhorse, From Software, they're not milking players through microtransactions. They're not nickel and diming people with battle passes and half-baked launches. They sell you a game. That's it. Now, Xbox, on the other hand, survives off of the back of Call of Duty microtransactions and reoccurring subscription revenue. Their games have not hit. Their platform sales are down. And now, with the excuse of Nintendo increasing their prices to $80, opening the floodgates, Xbox is the first in line to raise their prices across the board. Games, hardware, all of it. It doesn't feel strategic. It feels desperate. I mean, just last year, Phil Spencer said that raising prices beyond $70 could become manipulative. In his words,
yeah, okay, this is the article that I was talking about. He wasn't talking about games being above $70. He's talking about Phil Spencer, head of Microsoft Xbox division, shared his thoughts on raising the price of games from $60 to $70. He's actually specifically talking about the manipulative nature of releasing a game with DLC that is already ready to go, but you don't package it because you want to sell it afterwards. Now, look at Call of Duty now. He's doing that too. I'm not saying that he's a good guy or he's doing the right thing or he's saying everything right or anything along those lines. It just, that's a little disingenuous. It was more so about DLC than it was the full price of the game.
We went through COVID. We found more ways of getting more money per player. I think that at some point you reach the peak of that. And frankly, it could go to places that are manipulative. And I'm not a big fan of that. Then Microsoft would then go on to record $94 billion in profit. They would then double their growth. Their valuation hits $3.4 trillion. And suddenly we are expected to believe that they have to increase prices because of rising development costs and economic uncertainty. Snakes in the grass slither fast. I said this in my Oblivion video, and I'm going to say it again. Xbox may be the weakest platform right now, but that's exactly what makes them the most dangerous. With Game Pass and cross-platform releases,
they're the worst platform hardware-wise, one of the best game-wise right now.
They can undercut their competition on their competition's own platforms, but instead of using that power to offer better value, they're just hiking their prices like everyone else. They issued a statement saying, "We understand that these changes are challenging, and they were made with careful consideration given market conditions and the rising cost of development." Sure, careful consideration, until you realize the whole thing is just them passing the buck to the players. You know, everybody wants to pin these price hikes on the US trade war, and while that might be an agitator, I'm not buying it. Xbox is behind in the console race. You really don't think that there isn't a stockpile of unsold hardware somewhere? That Xbox that you're buying off the shelf right now wasn't made yesterday. It was made months ago.
True.
If these tariffs were such a serious issue, they could just slow down production, stagger the releases. Hell, with the profits that they're pulling in, they could eat the costs and not even feel it. But they won't, because tariffs are just a convenient scapegoat. And even if
that is 100% true.
If they were rescinded tomorrow, these prices would stay the exact same. What absolutely drives me up the wall is how transparent this whole thing is. These price hikes are a direct consequence of poor planning. Rising costs wouldn't be a factor if you hadn't bet your entire hardware operation in one country. If it wasn't for tariffs, it would have been something else. Supply chain failure, political unrest, a factory fire.
Well, I think like the best example of that is the way that grocery stores are now, specifically in Canada where I'm from, but I believe it's also in the US. During COVID, when they had the supply chain problems, they raised the prices of all groceries. Have they gone back down now that that's not a problem? No. It's just they need an excuse to raise. And also, I don't know about anywhere else in the world, but Canada, grocery stores had their best margins in the years of COVID. They made the most money during COVID. So it's all a lie, kabuki theater.
These are self-inflicted wounds. So why is this happening? Why are all of these companies hiking their prices, slashing jobs, and trying to gaslight us into thinking it's all for our benefit? Well, the real answer is investor pressure. That's it. Gaming has become a hotbed for investors. It's not like traditional industries. Once hardware is out of the way, it's pure margin for the most part. No factories, no trucks, no physical goods, just code. And once they got your attention, they can sell you the exact same pixels over and over again. That's what they're protecting. Not the cost of development, but the rate of return. Live service games have become the golden goose in this industry. Infinite growth, infinite spend. You don't need to sell a game anymore. You sell a lifestyle. Look at Take-Two. Their entire business is propped up by two things: GTA Online and NBA 2K's microtransaction economies. EA, the same thing. FC, formerly FIFA, Madden, Apex Legends, 3 live service ecosystems that print money daily. Activision Blizzard, the only reason that they were worth $70 billion for Microsoft was because of World of Warcraft and Call of Duty. No innovation, no creativity, just predictable revenue.
It's very true.
And it's that predictable revenue that has completely warped the conversation around development costs. We keep hearing about how games are more expensive to make than ever, but what they won't say out loud is they are the ones who made it that way. You do not get to cry poor after making billions of dollars in revenue, hiring thousands of people across a dozen studios, scaling up to unsustainable.
Well, like, that's Expedition 33, right? Is like, you see the quality of game they just made with less than 40 people in their studio. Meanwhile, Call of Duty has thousands, and they're just, when there's all that bloat, it just does not go well. It's evidently clear at this
sustainable
point.
size.
But then at the same time, you'll have someone like this talking like Legendary Drops, who talks about like the gaming layoffs. It doesn't make a little bit more sense that they're laying off more people when we can see what 40 people without any like oversight can actually do.
And then acting shocked when your overhead crushes your margins. GTA 6 is the perfect example. That game is taking longer to develop than every GTA combined. That's not because of creative ambition. It's because the machine behind it has become bloated, inefficient, and addicted to scale. That's not spending smarter. That's spending more. And they're expecting us to pay for it. What makes this all the more frustrating is that this industry is not struggling. Not even close. The last 30 years have been defined by record-breaking profits year over year over year. Xbox just had its best year ever. None of these companies are tightening their belts. Their executives aren't taking pay cuts. There's no scaled back bonuses, just mass layoffs and price hikes because they want to keep the party going at the top while cutting off everything else or just making you pay for it.
That is
and
true.
That's the thing that they don't want you guys to.
That's more so the point that people get mad about layoffs, right? Is the people at the top are still making the oodles of money.
Think about this. Isn't about inflation. It's not about tariffs. It's not about rising development costs. It's about control. Xbox wants these price hikes. Ooh, they want them badly because if they can make traditional gaming so financially exhausting, $80 games, $700 consoles, $100 accessories, so they can herd their players towards services that they can control. Live service games, free to play, Game Pass, cloud gaming, controlled storefronts, closed ecosystems. The long game. They're just trying to boil the frog. These guys aren't even competing with each other anymore. It's so transparent. Microsoft buys Activision for $69 billion. Sony buys Bungie for $3.6 million. These aren't random events. These are symptoms of a market consolidating so aggressively that there is
$3.6 billion, not million, but
no pressure to undercut each other. No official collusion, just a shared understanding that if they all raise prices together, the customer will have nowhere else to go. And the worst part is they're doing it like it's going to benefit the industry in some way. They blame global instability, rising costs, economic pressure, but they're just using it as a smokescreen to justify whatever their next gamble is, the next experiment. All of it, every last move is designed to shift the cost of their mistakes onto you. This isn't a strategy, it's survival. It's desperation that's dressed up in a suit and tie. And the more they raise the floor, the more players are going to start looking for the exit. Man, Xbox really loved that quote from Ubisoft. Players need to get comfortable not owning their games. They thought to themselves, that's a strategy. That's a plan we can get behind.
Oh, no.
Let's make the market so uncomfortable for players to own anything.
He's not wrong, though. He's not wrong, though. This is exactly what I was saying. With raising the price of games to $80, it pushes people towards subscription models, which means you're not owning your game. He's 100% right.
Own games or to own hardware that the low-income and middle-income customers are likely to take the bait and go for Game Pass or go for cloud gaming or any of these other subscription services. Because why would I pay $80 when I could pay $20 a month and play all of these games rather than just get one little measly game? I mean, these services are so fair. They're so cheap. They're so effective. Until next year or the year after that, where because of rising development costs and economic uncertainty, the price has to go up by $10 or $15. But don't worry.
Look at Netflix, right? It's the same as Netflix. How much does Netflix cost now? I think it's more than Game Pass, if I'm going to be honest.
It's just like Netflix. We have an option for you price-sensitive customers. Game Pass Basic with ads. PlayStation Plus Basic with ads. Ubisoft Basic with ads. Then after that, they're going to start selling you frame rates and resolution. We've seen this happen before. Like, I don't understand how people think that this isn't going to happen. I've had people push back on it. That's not what's going to happen. What? Are you stupid?
It's going to happen, especially the frame rates and stuff, which is insanity. Oh, it has to do with internet speeds and blah, blah, blah. You have to buy the bigger package.
You deserve to pay these prices. Gaming is slowly being monetized into a hellscape like every other industry that's out there. And it's all to attract more investors. Notice how every single year they have to break record profits higher and higher and higher and higher without ever trying to lower their floor. The funny thing is, this isn't like any other industry. We have options. We can go anywhere else that we want to. Hell, we're not even buying most of your games to begin with. I don't think that they understand how much trouble that they're in right now. Because, one, I don't even think players are going to buy into this. I'm sure that there's going to be some people that are going to hop on the train of some of these bigger games that are going to come out that we know for a fact are actually good. And if it's $80, people will still pay for it. But for the most part, when I talk to other people about these price changes, when I see my YouTube comments or I see things that people say on Twitter, it's apathy more than anything else. They don't care. Okay, I wasn't going to buy it anyway. That's the attitude that I'm seeing. I mean, all of this price pressure that we're seeing right now is coming from AAA, which nobody's really buying right now. Sure, a couple of those games are doing well, but the vast majority of them are not. Why would I want to spend $80 to play Fable next year when I could use that money to buy 2 Expedition 33s?
Wow, that price doesn't totally check out, but I get what you're saying. But Fable could be, why are we dumping on Fable? Also, Expedition 33, an Xbox game, so
doesn't make any sense. You know, the worst part is they need to charge a lot more than $80 because the EU is about to pull the rug right out from underneath these guys. You know what I find interesting? Players aren't yelling anymore, not like they used to. We've been through the same outrage cycle so many times that the tone
He's not in the Call of Duty community.
has shifted. When people are talking about $80 games or $700 consoles now, it's not anger, it's apathy. The reaction isn't don't do this to us, it's go ahead and destroy yourselves. I think that's where I am with a lot of this right now. I find their missteps to be more entertainment than their games are anymore. The bad games, the price hikes, the censorship, the controversy, sitting back and watching PlayStation continue
This is a good game.
to chase the live service ghost as Marathon and Arc Raiders drop their alpha tests right next to each other, and the contrast between the two couldn't be any more glaring. Marathon losing players every single day, their alpha was out, while Arc Raiders kept growing. One game feeling like it's going to be the next big thing, and the other one feeling like a trend chaser that's trying to fit in with the cool kids. Again, another game being made by a studio with half of the amount of developers. The highest levels of this industry have become so disconnected and so corporatized that they are blind to what players want. They think that our complaints are nothing more than whining. They listen to their board of directors or their sensitivity training. They're more worried about their next earnings call than the customers. We've become the last thing on their minds. And when you ignore us, we start to ignore you. Your games, your platforms, eventually all of it becomes a symbol for everything that people don't want or want to support. So we start going somewhere else. And that's exactly what's happening right now. I mean, the three highest player rated games of this year so far are Expedition 33, Blueprints, and Split Fiction. All of them launched at $50 or less.
So this is what I was saying before. It seems like that $50 price is the price. It seems like that is what people like, and big game, smaller game, right? Like maybe 20 hours to beat at the very most for Split Fiction. But Expedition 33, if you want to beat everything, like 60 hours. Blueprints, long, I don't even know.
Split Fiction just passed 4 million copies sold. Expedition 33 hit 2 million copies sold in 2 weeks. Games made with a fraction of the money in a fraction of the time with a fraction of the developers, providing exponentially more creativity and enjoyment. These aren't flukes, these are signals, and they're being ignored. These publishers are still operating like it's 2016, thinking that a massive budget, cinematic trailers, and a big IP is enough to be able to capture everybody's attention. But markets have changed. Markets do change. Just look at the top games on Steam right now. Most of them are cheap, old, or indie. Outside of Baldur's Gate 3, it's almost impossible to find a full-priced game that has cracked the top
I think there's like 2 in there, I think.
top 10 for longer than a week. That's why these price hikes just don't make any sense to me. A study last year showed that nearly 60% of all playtime was spent in games that are more than 6 years old. The only new titles that have seemed to be able to break through are either free-to-play, high-effort indie titles that are priced fairly, or massive AAA projects that actually deliver what players are looking for, like Monster Hunter Wilds, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, Black Myth Wukong, or Space Marine 2. So while these companies keep tightening their grip, pushing subscription models, raising base prices, and padding every single experience with battle passes and microtransactions, they're missing the bigger picture. The model they're chasing is already collapsing. I mean, take a look at high-budget movies and streaming services right now. The same industries that these guys are trying to emulate are already burning out. Just last year, PC Magazine published a report showing that internet piracy is on the rise again, up 36% from 2020. Why?
It makes sense, right? With the rising price of streaming services and the amount of them. Like, if I want, it's now more expensive for me to have all of the streaming services to have cable. And everyone got rid of cable because they wanted the streaming. It makes sense. It makes complete sense.
Because content is fragmented across multiple services, prices keep going up, and value keeps going down. Does that sound familiar to you guys at all? According to the study, piracy sites received 141 billion visits in the last year alone. That's more than the height of COVID lockdowns. The US leads the charge in piracy traffic, and it's not just movies and television anymore, it's games too. Because when you lock all that content behind 6 different paywalls and continue to raise the prices, well, people don't get mad, they just find another way. So audiences today are either avoiding these products altogether, or they're subverting the system to be able to find them for cheap or for free, making all these high budget projects nearly impossible to find a profit in. But that's okay, right? Because, I mean, they still have all that microtransaction income to be able to fall back on. Well, I wouldn't be too sure of that. Over the last few months, the European Union has ramped up its efforts to clamp down on what they call predatory monetization practices in
It's mainly alternate currencies, so like COD points or anything like that.
gaming. all stemming from complaints about a mobile game called Star Stable Online, but it's quickly ballooned into something much bigger. The EU is now investigating the use of dark patterns, FOMO-driven events, psychological currency obfuscation, and the lack of return policies for in-game purchases.
Oh yeah, that's the other one.
If these
return policies for microtransactions
rules go into effect and there is growing pressure to make this law, it won't just affect mobile games, it will impact everything. And I can already hear the counter argument for this. They'll just make a different version of the game for other regions, but that's not going to happen. That's not how modern global releases work anymore. Look how every gacha game or every RPG now shows its drop rates and its gacha rates, and that's all based on a law from China. It tends to not really be worth the effort or the cost to manage different versions of the game, and plus on top of that, their motivations to make a different version of the game would be so transparent that it would beg litigation. I'm telling you right now, if a return policy becomes mandatory in one region, it's going to be implemented everywhere, and that alone could shatter the very foundation of this entire microtransaction economy. Because these purchases are not made out of value, they are made out of impulse. They are emotional, compulsive, dopamine-driven decisions.
That's 100% true. Like 100% true. Look at bundles in Call of Duty. How many times? I mean, I don't buy them, but people who buy them, and they're like, "Well, I'm not using this anymore. A new one just came out."
Designed to wear off quickly. That's what they want them to do. And if you give people a few hours to reconsider and refund those purchases, the entire system collapses. And that's not hyperbole. Keep in mind, the biggest publishers in this industry, EA, Take-Two, Microsoft, Sony, Epic, they are all held up by this model. Anything that could disrupt the balance of it would threaten to break the entire thing. Right now, most of the industry's revenue isn't coming from games, it's coming from that ecosystem. Epic has Fortnite, EA has FC, Apex Legends, and Madden, Microsoft has Call of Duty, Nintendo is pulling in billions from the Pokemon titles, and Sony, well, we already know they've been desperately trying to chase live service games for years, but this is the only path they have. This is their only path to growth. This is the only path that investors understand. And without them, they're nothing. In 2025 alone, Microsoft's content and services revenue went up by 8%, not because of great new games that they had released, but because of subscriptions and microtransactions. When they acquired Activision Blizzard in 2023, their overall gaming revenue jumped by 49%. Content and services, meaning recurring payments and microtransactions, grew by 61%, consuming.
That's like all Call of Duty. That's insane.
The vast majority of their earnings. If the European Union cracks down on digital currencies and dark patterns, and other countries continue to regulate things like loot boxes and gambling and video games, it's not just going to be a bad quarter, it's going to be a market reset. And most of these companies have nothing of substance to be able to fall back on. I'm going to be honest with you.
This would maybe be the best thing that ever happened to Call of Duty.
Guys, I think one of the only reasons that we haven't seen any big moves towards regulation of microtransactions is because of the complete economic collapse that it would cause in the gaming industry. These guys have built their entire businesses around being able to psychologically manipulate their audience and extract as much reoccurring revenue as possible. And they've done it while constantly scaling up their companies to absurd proportions, adding more developers, more marketing, and more money. And they've gotten used to this arrangement. The industry is wildly underregulated, which is exactly why it's grown so fast and attracted so much outside capital. But that gold rush is coming to an end, because if consumer protections start forcing these companies to act ethically or even transparently, the entire business model falls apart. And of course, things are only getting worse for these guys, because add to the fact that one of their hidden revenue streams just got unraveled. Ubisoft is currently under legal fire for allegedly harvesting behavioral data through their online-only single-player games and likely their multiplayer games as well. That's why these guys...
Don't they all do that?
Guys wanted us to be online all the time. Data that they can analyze, sell, and use to manipulate the players, all without ever asking for permission. This is what the modern gaming industry is built on right now. Addiction loops, monetization funnels, data mining, and psychological manipulation that's disguised as entertainment. And now that that's all starting to collapse under regulatory pressure, under consumer fatigue, under the weight of a leaner, smarter, and more successful indie scene, these guys are panicking. They're raising their prices, they're pushing subscriptions even harder, they're throttling features and slapping paywalls on content that used to be free. I mean, it's now rumored that Call of Duty is going to start to paywall their events and gameplay modes.
Apparently, that was not true, but I wouldn't... That getting out there could have been a test, a test to see what players actually wanted, and I don't know. That would be the stupidest decision they've ever done.
I'm telling you right now, this isn't going to work because the players that used to be there aren't going to be fooled anymore. And the ones that do care have already walked away, and the ones that are still there aren't going to be enough. I think I might have brought this up before, but they keep trying to treat this industry like it's every other industry, which makes a lot of sense because a lot of these CEOs are coming from other places than gaming. But it's just not how this beast is built. It's just not how it works. It's the psychology of the whole thing. It's how people interact with these products. We don't even think of them as products. We think of them as games. We think of them as experiences. We think of them as worlds that we're visiting, as memories that we are having, as memories that we are sharing, ones that we plan on returning to or may return to in the future or whatever it might be. And we play these games. We don't consume them. And that's a completely different interaction than you see in a lot of other industries. And I think that they've lost touch with that.
We play these games. We don't. You should put that on a shirt.
And I think that's more evident by the day, to be honest with you. They left the players behind. They've been making worse games. They've been trying to monetize them even further. And even if they can make a good game, it's likely too expensive for us to buy, or it's too expensive for them to make. I mean, look at how high these guys have risen the stakes for themselves. Grand Theft Auto 6 is estimated to be $2 billion in development costs. That is insane. You cannot keep up with that. You can't even compete with that. Effectively, to just make what the AAA industry is supposed to be making in the first place. They have to sell like 30 plus million copies to be able to break even after fees and things like that on other platforms. They can pull that off, but the vast majority of the industry doesn't stand a chance. Are you kidding me? But these are the costs that continue to rise. They keep doing this to themselves. They keep scaling up and scaling out, and they use subscription services and microtransactions to be able to offset that growth and show that perpetual record-breaking growth that they need to show to their shareholders, because most of these CEOs are paid in stock options to begin with that never take pay cuts, by the way, regardless of how many people they lay off or how bad their business does. Notice most of these gaming CEOs never lose their job. You know, and with these subscription services, I think it's going to be around. I think it's going to stick around, but I don't think it's ever going to be as popular as these companies are hoping it's going to be. They want it to be because it's the best and the most control that they'll ever be able to have over their consumer base. But I just think that people want to have their library. I think they want to have their games that they can go back to. I think they like buying things when they're on sale. People like feeling like they're getting a deal on something.
I think Steam will always be bigger than a Game Pass, for sure, because of the reason that he's saying. Now, when it comes to raising the prices of everything, that's why they're doing it, right? They're trying to push you in that direction. If the game is going to be $80 on Steam or $20 a month on Game Pass, what's easier to sell?
And people just want their games. Physical copies of games still sell. Expedition 33's physical copies sold out in multiple countries.
Wild.
And with microtransactions, that entire ecosystem is built on psychology, manipulation. They have to manipulate the player to be able to get that money. And if that is disrupted in any way, if there is legislation against it that gets rid of dark patterns or gets rid of anything, these guys are cooked. They won't stand a chance. You will see companies that you never thought would go out of business go out of business.
They will find ways around it. They always do. Look at what they did with loot boxes. That was the first big boom. Then they're like, wait. We can figure this out. And they will. Over and over and over. There's more ways to manipulate people.
Overnight. Honestly, I can't wait to watch it all backfire. It has been so much fun to sit back and watch as these indie companies have just been running circles
I do
around
like
these
that
guys
as well.
lately. It has been crazy. The amount of just random out of nowhere developers making tons of money, making games that are incredibly popular and absolutely beloved. It has just been so much fun. And keep in mind, for every copy of Expedition 33 that sells, that's one less copy of Assassin's Creed that gets sold. These companies do directly compete with their games, even though they don't like to compete on their prices in a lot of cases, at least not on the...
It's weird though that he keeps talking about Expedition 33. Like that's published by Xbox. So like, yeah, it's Sandfall made it and it was less than 40 people and it was probably a relatively minor investment for Xbox, and now it's selling gangbusters. But while he's talking about Xbox being bad, bringing in that game as something good is odd to me.
On the AAA side, but that's how this whole thing works. So, they hate to see it. They'll act like they're happy to see these guys do well. I was talking to an indie developer the other day, and he had said that because of the direction that the industry is headed in, it has created so many opportunities for these guys to make money, and they are so happy that these guys keep self-sabotaging themselves. He's like, it has never been better to be an indie dev. I told him, you guys are making it where it's never been better to be a gamer. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did enjoy the video,
I mean, it is also hard to find the good indie games. I think that's something that we don't want to miss there, because there's a lot that come out that are like just a lot of fun. Like Schedule 1, great fun. I don't think it's like the most in-depth game, but fun, just fun. Those, the rise to the top. One that I'm looking forward to is, I think it's called Witchbrook. It's coming out, published by Cuttlefish, the guys that did Stardew Valley, but it's like Harry Potter, day and night cycle. I'll be all over that one. But yeah, I agree. Indie games are better than they have ever been, and the AAA market is weird. I don't know if you consider Expedition 33 a AAA or a AA, but probably one of the best games I've ever played. And $50. I think that's what we need to keep looking at. $50.